Is it possible for computers to be possessed by demons? What should people do if this is suspected? Are there rules for discernment of spirits in this context? The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. And this is from Justin. So what about something like that? I know I kidded that a lot of us feel sometimes when we're trying to get the blue screen of death off or something, that the thing must be possessed, it never works right. But literally, could something like this happen, or what could happen?
Yeah, possession's a very technical term there, Justin, and the answer to that question is no. The devil is interested in possessing people, really not possessing a computer. He's looking for a soul with free will, not for an instrument that carries out, a certain, calculations and logical functions. However, you could say that, a computer, in a sense, could be infested. That is to say, in a sense, it could be occupied, by a spirit, right? By even a demonic spirit. And sometimes objects, there are many objects. Normally, though, they're not computers. They're objects that were either used for some sacred purpose or have some kind of purpose, and somehow that object is really associated with a spirit, almost as if the spirit, as they say, attaches itself to the object. So could a spirit attach itself to a computer too? Yes, a spirit could attach itself to a computer as well. Generally, though, spirits don't generally attach themselves to something like a computer. It has more significance, spiritual significance or psychological significance for a person. But if a computer had that kind of spiritual or psychological significance for a person, could attach itself. Second thing to kind of remember is, normally a demon wants access. It's not just going to stay in a computer. It's going to stick around the house, and if it happens to be convenient for the demon or a spirit to sort of do something with the computer, to either scare you, to make you feel fear, to do something that will deceive you in some way, then absolutely the spirit, a demon could do that. No question. There have been cases where, computers start writing things, things appear on the screen which are not being typed in, and they're not part of your hard drive. And so you might start thinking to yourself, holy mackerel, what's this all about? And of course, for all intents and purposes, yes, a demon could do that. A demon also can move objects around the room.
Yeah, like a
demon
poltergeist
can certainly
kind of a thing,
levitate a bit.
Kind of
sure,
things.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they can do. Demons do all the same things poltergeists.
It's interesting too, because while I was thinking of you talking about that, I was thinking of Bishop Sheen, and he used to say many times when they'd start to tape his programs at the old Dumont studios and things, strange things would start happening, things didn't work, and he would always pray to Saint Michael the Archangel and so that the show could go on. But I'm wondering also with the idea, we think about books, but here we have the internet and a computer, and it's not only the device itself, but what we're allowing onto that device from the internet, whether it be pornography or other things that are basically demonic in a lot of ways. Is that a way of opening yourself up as well?
Oh yeah, I would say, people think, that pornography is a victimless crime, but I have to be very honest, you're the first victim. And it's you can look at it just merely psychologically, right? That this thing, of course, is undermining your maturation, undermining your capacity for intimacy, undermining your capacity for commitment, focusing on the objectification of women or whatever it may be, right? You can talk about it in merely, as having bad psychological consequences, bad maturation consequences, etc. But the negative consequences do not stay with the merely temporal, the psychological, the maturation, etc. It really extends into the spiritual domain, because, of course, this whole thing of pornography and the whole thing of lust. Remember, lust and power are connected. Lust and ego are connected. Narcissism and lust are connected. There is a connection here, to what I would call the kinds of the high prominence, high capacity sins and darkness that the evil spirit would like to bring you to. So yes, of course, lust looks innocent, but it also opens doorways to real spiritual, tempting. And of course, you can be tempted solely, sexually, where you can actually bring the demonic into your life that just batters you, sexually all the time. And secondly, to move you up into, another realm of narcissism, egocentricity, and power connected with sexuality. That, of course, is the devil's real dark domain. So it's not a victimless crime, so to speak. It really, you're the first victim, and it's both psychological and spiritual. Well, and it's one of the toughest addictions to break. It takes a long time. And of course, once the devil has you hooked, the best thing the devil can do is basically convince you that since you can't cure it overnight, you're an incurable sinner. And of course, despair is your best option. If you see the deceit, right? That
and I think there's been some studies, if I'm right,
got the trump card,
right, that actually show there are some physical changes in the brain and things like that occur sometimes when one gets involved with these particular addictions like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, certainly in rats' brains, eventually, the whole pleasure, circuits, if I can put it that way, are altered and reconfigured in order to expect the pleasure to come, from various kinds of stimulus. So it's very, very difficult to break the addiction. The one thing you don't want to do if that addiction is there, the one thing you don't want to do is think, I can break it overnight. You're not going to break it overnight unless it's a miracle. A miracle can happen, but if it's, if a miracle doesn't happen, it's a long process and it's going to take, it's inch by inch. The second thing to remember is do not despair if you don't break it overnight, because of course that's the higher stakes for the devil, is to get you really into despair through the sexual addiction is one thing. Despair is a much higher stakes game for the devil. There is where you give up hope. There's where you run away from God. There's where you run away from religion. There's where you have suicidal thoughts. There's where you have that the malaise and the despondency. So for all intents and purposes, stick with your hope in the unconditional love of God. Just know it's going to take some time, but you got to work at it, because of course it does undermine you, and
exactly.
It is a devil's playground, to use the old cliche.